P&R with Adam R. Welcome to 3P&R. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Clas Svahn. Clas, how you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you. It's quite nice weather in Sweden this time of year. We have left winter behind us now, so that's nice.
Yeah, here in Florida, it's an easy 90 degrees.
Well, you're ahead of us there.
Yeah, it's roasting hot here, but that's what I'm here for. That I like that. So before we get into it, just remind guests who you are, your background, and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a journalist by profession at the Dagens Nyheter, which is the largest morning newspaper here in Sweden. I'm also chairman for UFO-Sweden, who is the investigating body when it comes to investigating UFO reports all over Sweden, and also chairman for AFU, Archives for the Unexplained, the largest archives when it comes to the unknown in the world.
Yes, and so we were talking in pre-podcast about disclosure. It seems to me in Europe that they're a little more transparent with their government than here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I agree with you.
Why is that, you think?
That's a difficult question, but I can say that I went to France last autumn and to meet with the French space agency's UFO group, and the space agency CNES have been doing UFO research through this UFO group for many, many decades. And they've been very open about what they are doing, and they're also very transparent. They have field investigators, and they're doing quite great work as well. And I should say that that goes for other countries in Europe as well, that they are looking at the UFO phenomena like something that really it interests them. They really want to know what people are seeing in the skies. But why is it like that? That's a very difficult question. Maybe it's some sort of mentality thing that Europeans are a little different from Americans. We are a little more open when it comes to some of our military, I should say. And also, I can say that we have been around for many, many years as well doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I somewhat believe America uses the UFO phenomena as a smokescreen. Like, in other words, if we're spying somewhere, we could chalk it up to being, it might have been a UFO. Might not be us, because if you look with recent events with China, with the balloons over here, I somewhat want to believe China was going to try to blame the UFO phenomenon. I don't think they thought we were going to spot these balloons, but we did, and they were on shoot on. I mean, there was a UFO he shot down here in the Midwest. I never heard any more news coverage on it after that. We just know he shot it down. They didn't disclose what it was doing. So it could be like a spy program as well that they utilize. As far as actual UFOs, undoubtedly they're real. Like, we know this. We have pilots that have witnessed them. It's now discerning the difference between the actual UFO and just things that are spotted in the sky by perhaps maybe a foreign country and or our own country. So what right now in your discovery, are you coming across anything that's being spoken about it potentially being a spy craft?
It was quite a lot of discussions here in Sweden as well when the shootings of the Chinese spy balloon and the other unknown balloons were done. And we have not seen anything like that in Sweden, but we have occasionally Russian balloons drifting over us. But they were, I should say, at least for 25 years ago, research balloons that were into some sort of research together with the Nordic countries. Nowadays, we have not seen any balloons at all. And when I asked second in command for the Swedish Air Force about UFOs, he said we have not have any single UFO observation when it comes to pilots here in Sweden since the year 2000. that sounds a little strange to me. I think they have seen things that they don't understand as well, but that's his point of view.
Right. Yeah, it's tough too, because a lot of them, there's, for whatever reason, in this day and age, the stigma is still attached. It's really strange. It's especially when you have like the Nimitz, with David Fravor, the pilot here, and some of the other U.S. pilots that are coming forward with it. You would think there would be no more stigma, but apparently there is some. Or again, it could just be our U.S. government's like, well, listen, this is a good thing for us because we could go operate on our test equipment and we could blame it on the UFOs, and which is probably why they gave them a new acronym, the UAPs, it's bizarre to me, the way the government treats and handles this, especially here in America. They have disclosure, but when you watch these hearings, it's not like we learn fascinating new information. It's basically them saying, yeah, we know they're there, but we can't discuss it in an open forum. Which is, I
mean, they have turned UFOs into a threat, and since it's a threat to the U.S. Military, they will keep it under wraps, of course, because they don't want to tell anything, so an adversary could know what you are doing. Right. I think it should be more open. I think it should be more science involved in this, and just in a couple of days, we are going to learn from NASA what they have been investigating for now 6 months or so. So maybe there will be some new news that way. But coming from Pentagon, I think we will not get that much information at all. Just maybe some tables, some summaries, but not really any hard data.
I agree. And again, it's to their benefit to kind of utilize it as a stigma, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The one thing that catches me is when and I go over this, I say it a lot. When you hear David Fravor discuss the way this craft moved through the air and they were engaging it, and there's just nothing I could think of that we have, even in black projects, that can perform this. Especially going from one place to another place in a split second. The biology of a human couldn't handle that. Our physiology would kill us. Right. So again, there's no doubt UFOs are real. And I'm sure there's a large portion of reports that are, may or may not be them, but we know they're real. And the big question is, what are they? Why are they here? And I'm under just as you said, our government's saying now the threat. They're using the word the threat, which in my opinion allows them to fund their the military complex. Right. It's a way to get more money. But if they're really a threat, and we've been seeing these for hundreds or even thousands of years, and they haven't attacked, are they a threat? So it's bizarre. It really is bizarre.
I mean, nothing really indicates that they are a threat. I mean, you're right about that. We have not seen that. We have seen it as a mystery. And as you also said, they have been doing maneuvers that are very, very hard to explain, at least if they are manned. I mean, I have examples like that from Sweden as well. I have a very good case from 1988, which I investigated myself. Was a guy standing out on the shore. He was angling, and it was very, very nice weather. He was alone there. And suddenly he heard a noise from the heavens, and he looked around. And when he looked up, he saw this huge thing, big as a car, coming. It was diamond-shaped, coming down from like 75, 80 degrees, and crashing into the lake, he thought, but just 1 or 2 meters above the surface. It takes another direction, 180 degrees, and follows the lake and vanishes. And after that, he hears this very, very strange sound, and he feels very, very, he feels nearly sick. He got very, very frightened, and he went back home quite right away. So that craft, which was very big, did this maneuver, and he could not really take anything doing it. It was not a mistake, because he had a very, very good view where he was standing, and he's a very good observer, and he's been out public with this as well.
It reminds me, I had a discussion with Steve Murr on the show a couple times, and he has me under the impression that, you know, when you see these objects and their light is so brilliant and changing colors, that they're utilizing different frequencies to maneuver. And the strange sound he heard, I wonder if it's different frequencies. That's, like for me, I have sinus problems. And so high pitched noises affect me more than other people because of the pressure in my ears. And so I wonder how many people are seeing these things or around them, and the frequencies actually, disturbing their ears and their sinuses as well.
There is a lot of observations that we are never hearing of course, and many people don't realize that they have seen something like this. As you indicated, they can maybe hear something but don't see it, they just feel it. So it's really strange. The strange thing is that it's so physical as well. It's not only affecting people. You can hear the sound from them. You can see the sun reflecting in the hull. So it's really something tangible we are talking about.
In some of this, what studies have caught your eye? Like if you had to say there were some interesting cases you were on, what would be the more interesting cases?
I must mention a study before we talk about cases, because there was just the other day in Nature a study that asked 1,040 scientists their views on UFOs. And it turned out that they were much more interested in UFOs than we could anticipate, really. Nearly half of them were that interested that they wanted to know more about the subject. And that's reassuring, I think. And many of the scientists that were into this study as well, they had heard about, of course, the New York Times article from 2017. I also read or heard about the Nimitz case and the other pilot cases. And they were not just brushing this away. They wanted to know more about it. They wanted to follow the subject. And they wanted the US to make more investigations. And they wanted to do them themselves. But first, they wanted some other scientists to start, some well-known scientists. And after that, they felt that they were more easily able to follow and make their own studies. That was an interesting paper published in Nature just a week ago.
You know what it is scientists in their mind. It's not the mystery of, is there aliens or are we alone? I think for them, it's the technology, right? Because when you hear about an object that maneuvers that way, the one thing that's going to pique the interest of any scientist is, what are they using for technology?
Absolutely. And it's unknown, and they are, of course, used to hearing about UFOs now. Those new breeds of scientists have grown up with X-Files and all that things, so they are more adjusted to things that are a little strange. When I started in the 1970s, the scientists from that day, they didn't really know anything about strange things, or there were nothing on TV, nothing on radio. So everything that were connected to UFOs were just something they could laugh off. But today's scientists, they are a different kind of scientists. They have this background, which is very important, and they are adjusted to it.
Yeah, it's the generation gap, and allows them to be a little bit more open-minded. To be a scientist, to invent something great, you have to really think out of the box. You can't be conventional, because what happens is if you become complacent in anything, you're not going to excel. You're not going to find new ideas. You got to dare to be different. That's the only way you're going to come up with a grand new idea, is to dare to be different. And especially from the previous eras, the stigma of the UFO is in the science community, you could almost get laughed out of the community and shunned. Where today, it's because of the amount of, I think, data coming in from, not just fighter pilots, but other government officials and whistleblowers, it's making it more of an acceptable topic to touch on. So now that it's becoming an acceptable topic, scientists in their mind, again, they're probably like, well, now that we're talking about this, how exactly are they using propulsion? I mean, clearly they're not using a gas propulsion, so it's piqued their interest. You can
see like Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor who really paved the way for many scientists now. His papers and his openness, and he's so often interviewed in different media, telling that there could be artifacts, there could be probes out there in our solar system from other solar systems maybe. And this Galileo project he starts now with telescopes around the world trying to take pictures of those, what he think could be alien technology out there. That step he took a couple of years ago has made a huge difference for many scientists. I think he helped a lot with what he really is doing right now.
Yeah, I have to agree. He's one of those scientists. He's going to dare to be different. He wants answers. Above all, he wants to know the technology behind it. You know, someone asked me, Clas, they're like, if humans are going to travel in space, you know, like in Star Trek, how would they do it? I said, well, one, I don't think we're going to build something on Earth and launch into space. We would have to find, in my opinion, a very large asteroid that we could build a city inside of, because it's going to take generations to explore the vastness of space. And what better protection from the radiation of space than to be inside of a large rock that you hollowed out and you could manipulate its trajectory, you know, by whatever means of technology we have currently. That's the only way I can imagine it, because I don't see us building a craft that's going to be large enough to hold generations, because it would take generations just across our own galaxy, let alone the vastness of other galaxies. So, you know, whatever's visiting us, they figured out something, right? That I have the hardest time wrapping my head around that. I'm under the impression, like, if you've listened to other podcasts I've done, I think the little gray aliens that people see, I think these are biological robots with the consciousness uploaded. In other words, like an avatar, and probably being controlled from a main control location off planet, obviously. But the biggest question to me is, how are they going through space? Like,
I mean, I don't have the answer to the UFO question, of course, but I think we sometimes are a little too much focused on the ET explanation.
Right.
I think it would be much nearer to us. If you look at all the reports that are valid, they are so diverse and so strange. It's a high strangeness topic, this. So it's very hard to see that it's just spacecrafts coming here on a regular basis. It must be something else, something more near the Earth, something connected to the Earth, maybe. I don't have the answer to that, but I think we must broaden our discussion much more and not just think that it's tins and cans flying through cosmos with beings in them.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people that think that they're here, like below the surface of the ocean in underground caverns. Because if you talk about, again, to the David Fravor, the Nimitz thing, they have an object that's going from 80,000 feet to 1 foot above the surface of the water with an object below the surface. And the only thing I could chalk up to that is that it's a system where it takes them from one location to another one and transports them to the vehicle below the surface, however means they have, and then onto another location, like some sort of elevator system.
Yeah. So
when you think in those terms, you're right. We have to broaden the conversation. It can't just be that they're floating around space, going place to place. It's for just resources alone. It's infeasible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're in a lot of think tanks, right? What are some of the ideas that you guys have of what they are and why they're here?
I mean, when I look at the hard cases from Sweden, which I, of course, are most familiar with, and I've met with the witnesses and done the investigations, I can see that there is some part of it are nearly into the realm of the paranormal. I think there is no really paranormal. Everything is normal, but you can call it that. Where they experience things that are on the borderline from our physical world and into something else that I think is, as I said, normal as well. Because when you see, I have reports where objects have been crashing into waters and you have not heard a single sound from the splash when they penetrate the water. I have other observations when there was a huge splash and a bang. So they are so diverse. It's hard to put everything into one explanation, I should say. So I'm very open-minded. I think we must be very, very open-minded, and we must be very knowledgeable. We must learn a lot about this before we are drawing to conclusions.
Yeah, I agree. And whatever it is that's here, that we do see and we're observing, I'm under the impression personally that we are the animals of their National Geographic, right? We're under a study, and the rules in National Geographic are, and I say this a lot, if we're observing lions in the wild, we can't get involved. Doesn't matter if their cubs are being attacked by other animals. We can't get involved. It's nature. But if we hit them with our car, then we're obligated. We have to get involved. That's because we defied nature. We hurt them in their own environment, that's not explaining all the abduction cases, but there are some like Travis Walton where he was injured and they had to, oh, great. He walked into the light, got hurt. Now we got to fix him. Unbelievable, right? So,
yeah, and John Keel called this the Disneyland of the gods. I mean, it could be anything. It could really be anything. And that makes it so exciting to try to find an explanation to it.
So for you, what are some of the cases that give you a profound effect? Like that to you, in your mind, 100% this is evidence of something being here that's not us?
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah, something is here, something tangible, something physical, and sometimes not physical at all. It's affecting humans and affecting ground and installations. It's like ball lightning. It can sometimes kill people. Other times it just bounces off your chest without hurting anything at all. So we are dealing with a subject that is very, very problematic to understand for a scientist, very hard to study because of the diversity of it. And that, I think, is one of the problems for the scientist, not to get involved into UFOs, because when they try to do it, they must choose a path, just one way to go to get their funding and to make a real study.
Right.
But when they do that, they exclude so many things. So that makes it not really good at all in the end, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, so earlier you said like there were cases where these things are performing high maneuvers. This is stemming back from the 80s. I have a lot of people say, well, how do we know it's not us? Well, I base it on this. A lot of our pleasures today, like our cell phone, the internet, these things were military applications once upon a time that later on became a public application. And so when you look, I try to base things on what we have for luxury items today to kind of gear me towards where we are technologically, in anything, right? Like if you look at our cell phones, they have leapfrogged since 2010 till now. Cell phones, the technology and the power have increased. We can't go fast enough, right? You can't, it's so fast. And then let's go back to the 90s, and the cell phones then were, you had to work out to pick one up and use it. They were huge, right? And then towards the mid 90s, they started getting a little more compact. And so the point I make is, if we're seeing objects that stem back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, their technology is already there. All right. We haven't gotten there yet. So it's not easy for me to accept people saying, well, it could be us, because I can't. Our stealth program came to light, really, when it came to light was in the 90s when we had the Iraq War, the Desert Storm War. That's when we found out about it. And by that point, the next black project was the FA-22 Raptor in the mid-90s. So you can't compare those to objects that are performing the way we see them performing, like as what David Fravor saw, because it had to stem from a point of origin. And
yeah, I mean, if David Fravor is correct, which I think is, and of course Alex Dietrich and other people say the same, I cannot see the Russians or China behind that. The Russians, of course, not, because if they did have that technology, you had seen that in the Ukraine war.
Right.
We have not seen that at all, not at all. So there's only China left, really. And China, I really can't see that. They're sending spy balloons. Why are they doing that if they can fly like the things that David Fravor has reported?
Exactly. I mean, China's not exactly they're quick to shove something in our face, right? When their hypersonic missile, they made us aware of that immediately, right? And we didn't bat an eye at that because obviously laser technology. But the point I think is, like you said, I think Russia would have definitely used that technology right now. No question.
No question. No question at all.
Yeah, they're because they're not, for what they thought was going to be an easy run through is now turning into over a year of a war, and it's costing them resources. So yeah, undoubtedly, I don't think anything that we're seeing is something that any government on this planet's using. I really don't think so.
There's a very interesting passage in the first report from the UAPTF report that was 2021 in the midsummer. They wrote that if it's not China, Russia, or other countries, or if it's not any non-governmental agency, it could be, and it was all blackened out after that. What could it be if it could not be Russia, China, other countries, or non-government agencies? There's nothing left except very, very strange natural phenomena or something completely new.
Yeah, it's all, and when it's redacted, clearly they have an idea. In other words, they have a theory at the very minimum of what it could be, and if it's redacted, that's the big question mark, right?
And after the redaction, it says although, and then it's redacted again.
That's great.
It's great.
I mean, here's another idea. So we know the physiology of beings wouldn't do well in these vehicles with the way they're performing. So the other idea is, could it be the artificial intelligence of another? Could it be our own? Someone asked, could it be our AI from the future? I don't know. You're talking time travel. That's a lot to wrap your head around. But could it be another civilization's artificial intelligence? It's not impossible, right? I mean, we're getting based on the AI we're making right now. Add 10,000 years to the technology of any civilization. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to Ryan Graves, one of the fighter pilots that have been observing those strange crafts, he said he never saw any one of them with his own eyes, but he saw them on radar all the time. They were small. They were just a couple of meters at the largest. So they were unmanned. He was thinking in that terms as well. And it's very hard to see anyone sitting into just a meter or 2 meter big craft.
Right.
So, yeah, AI, absolutely. If there is a civilization that are very, very far ahead of us, it could absolutely be using that and with a technology that really seems like magic to us.
Let me ask you this, and this is a question I ask myself at night. Who's going to discover the truth of UFOs? Is it going to be humans or is it going to be our AI?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question, really. AI is really evolving exponentially right now. It's going really too fast, if I should say. We should really get better grip of the AI technology. It's going very, very, very fast. And maybe in a couple of years, they can answer so many questions that we cannot. So maybe you are implying that it would be AI. And I think, yes, it could be AI, not us.
Yeah, because soon enough, artificial intelligence will be connected to everything, our security, our malls, our planes, everything. There'll be, as it is right now, there's basically cameras everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And if AI becomes sentient, which scares me, by the way, you're right. And Elon Musk says this a lot too. There's no regulations for AI right now. None. There's college students that are using AI to write papers better than we can. AI is doing better on art and poetry, which also scares me. And that's AI now. So eventually, when AI has control of what I think eventually our government's going to use for our national defense, will it identify it? And then here's the bigger question: will it stay quiet about it?
There must be a BI as well, biological intelligence. That's us, and we really need to put the BI in front of the AI so we can know where we are heading. That's really, really important.
Yeah, that's what Elon's working on, Neuralink. Basically, at some point, we're already cyborgs. I hear this a lot because of our cell phones. And if I went back in time and let's say I transported my consciousness right now to 15-year-old me, and I didn't have my phone and some of the other luxuries I have right now, could I cope? Like, I think about that a lot. Like, how would I behave if I were to go back in time with my current state of mind? Would I be okay over there? Because I didn't have a cell phone, and I'm not I'm not in my phone as much as others, but I do use it a lot for information and Google to find out what friends are doing. If I need to contact someone, it's instant. What do I do then? I don't know. So
you would find yourself sitting on the bus staring at your hand.
Yeah, probably right. You would. Because I was an outdoors kid. I was always out doing stuff. I was always playing Manhunt or sports or just something. I never stayed home playing video games. I was always out. But now, currently, even when I shoot pool, I go out and shoot pool. And I always check my phone for information, or it's strange. So now take that and imagine what humans are when we, integrate, like, say, Neuralink. We're going to be really dependent on the information being digitally uploaded to us. So it's a scary thought. And so I say all this because whatever is here observing us, I'm under the impression that maybe you're right. Maybe it is a or a BI, right? Biological intelligence. It could be. Yeah. It very well could be.
There's another problem with this technology leap as well. There was a recent study here in Europe that said that the young, say between 10 and 20 years of age, are much less able to read today than 10 years ago. The reading are very, very, very bad. They don't read books, they don't read anything else, maybe something on their telephones, but they usually use the telephones to watch things. And that leaves us even more in the backwaters from AI. We need to read. We need to keep our brains
stimulated.
Yeah.
I agree. That's they don't use cursive in school anymore for quite a while. We are very dependent on technology. I'm even guilty of it. Like when I want to learn something, like let's say I find an interesting topic, I swear to you, I'm surfing YouTube immediately or Google, and you don't realize that they're great tools, they're great applications, but they're also they're curated, so you're not going to get all the information. You're right. Reading is important. It's essential. Get a study and read it. Get a book and read it. Get the real information, not the censored information we're getting. I agree completely.
Yeah, good.
So for you, Clas, in some of the cases, some of the studies that you're working on now, is there anything that has your attention?
Yes, I'm working on a case here outside Stockholm that happened nearly exactly a year from now. It's very, very strange. It's a very interesting observer. There were two guys sitting at the top of their house. They had a room up there with a study. They were working in the night. And suddenly they saw this red light reflecting outside the house. So they took a glimpse outside the window. I saw this ball of light, huge red ball of light hanging in front of a tree. And it's only less than 10 meters from the very, very near. And this red ball of light had this black hole in the middle of it. And the ball of light started moving. And when it did that, all the electricity were cut off. And they could follow this ball of light flying outside their windows. And suddenly when they went to another window and looked at it, they were frozen frozen in time. They lost around 9 minutes. When they were conscious again, they saw this ball of light had traveled a little more to the left, and one of the guys went and opened the window and peeked out, and then the ball of light just right straight up out in space, and in less than a second, the reverse from David Fravor, really, up in space. And this took 10 minutes altogether, something like that. And I know that there is a surveillance camera that caught all of this, and I will probably know more in about a week when I will see the surveillance tape as well and listen to the other witness. I only met with one of them this far. So it's an interesting case, and the electricity went back as soon as the ball of light had vanished. Everything ticked again, and the light went on. Everything was fine.
Huh.
And he was very sick. He was very sick the day after, and a couple of days after, he had this ache in his body, and he felt nauseous and really, really sick.
You know what that makes me think of again. If you ever gone to a concert where, like a rock concert, and the music's really, really loud, you're close to the speakers, you could get nauseated, disorientated, and
yeah.
So again, it leads me back to, are these things using some sort of frequency to move? Because I mean, it's one thing that troubles me, and I out of all the reports I've read, everyone I talk to, you never hear them saying that this thing broke the sound wave or it's manipulating air in any sort of way. It just moves rapidly. Like when a jet is flying through the air and it banks left, you could see the air coming, forming around it. Or when it breaks the sound barrier, you could see the sonic boom behind it. These objects don't demonstrate that.
No.
And it's got my curiosity.
Here, but not here at the same time.
Right. It's especially when you hear about an orb that's it's having a profound effect on the electricity around it, and then there's people that get physically sick when they're close to it. It makes me think, it makes me wonder what is it that it's doing? Like the purpose of that orb being there.
Why? I mean, that is the question. Why do they do this?
Right. That's a great question. What do you think? Why do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Why is it here? What is it doing?
I have no answer to that. I really would love to be able to answer that question, but I don't know, because, as I said before, it's so diverse. You cannot put everything into one bucket here. So many buckets, so many things to investigate before we know. We must be able to pinpoint the very, very good cases and throw all the others away and take a look at the ones that we really rely on with multiple witnesses, long duration observations with physical effects like I just described.
Right.
Then maybe we can say something for sure. But most of the things we are getting to UFO-Sweden are just points of lights in the sky taken with a cell phone. I mean, the pictures of today are so much worse than the pictures from the 1950s, which of course were fabricated, most of them. But you would think that this phenomenon should produce good pictures. It doesn't. Even if you look at the pictures that the Pentagon, the new Pentagon office, ARO, is producing, it's just like the things we are getting. It's just points of light or small things in the distance. You cannot really see any craft.
Right. I'd spoken to Doug Wilson from MUFON, and he kind of enlightened me of why that is. So today's cameras are digital, and so people get it. You're actually not taking a video or a picture of something, rather than the camera's reconstructing what it's looking at. Where film cameras and with zoom, it would take an actual image of what it is you're looking at. It would capture it onto film. And yeah, you're right. In the early days, you could manipulate photos. So we had to have experts in place to discern the difference between real or not real. But the exposure from a previous camera to a film gave you a raw image. And if depending on how good the quality of the camera is for zoom, you would see a craft. Where today, I noticed because I have a digital camera, a really high-end one, and I zoomed in on Jupiter. So, recently Jupiter, Venus, they're all really close. So I zoom in on Jupiter, snap a picture of it, and it's questionable, right? When you look at it through a telescope, however, it's very clear. You could see the rings or the surface of Jupiter and the rings around it. Where you use a digital camera and you take the picture, it still distorts a bit. And again, it's because,
but when you're taking a picture in daylight, I mean, you can take a picture of an aircraft and you can see it in your picture from your camera. It's fine. Right. I mean, if it was a UFO instead, we don't get that picture. There should be pictures taken in broad daylight, at least as good as when you're taking a picture of an aircraft at 33,000 feet.
Right.
But we do not get them. What we get are quite lousy pictures, and when we have pictures, we can nearly always find an explanation to what the guy did take a picture of, because we have the time, we have the elevation, we have everything we need.
Right.
So that's good. You should take pictures, but there should be better pictures, even if the camera distorts some of them.
Yeah, I agree. So it makes me wonder: is that object itself, is it utilizing something for its propulsion that's distorting the image that we're getting?
I think UFOs are a scarce phenomenon, very scarce. It's not that you are seeing things like that every day. I mean, we get around 300 reports to UFO-Sweden every year. Maybe 1 or 2 are labeled UFOs after investigations.
Huh. So it's a good point. All right. So anyway, circling back to the red orb. When I hear that story, what I think about, I always think about what we do, humans. Like, in current times, when we do animal research, we're sending drones out. We fly the drone over the herd of animals. We located them. Now we inform the ground team, like, here's the best place for us to go to observe these animals. Back in the day, we would just go out into the jungle with cameras and hope to get the shot. Today, we utilize drones for everything. Law enforcement, nature, discoveries. When we go below the ocean, we're not going into that's an environment we don't thrive there very well. We send down USOs, right? So when I hear about this red orb, I wonder if that's their drone. Is this an interesting place for us to study today? Let's send something out there and observe it. And so they send this orb down there and they see these 2 guys and they're like, well, there's these guys. Not very interesting. Next location, right? So that's what pops in my mind when I hear this.
Yeah. Yeah, it may be like that. They maybe just took a glimpse for 10 minutes and, not interesting, and drove away.
Right.
For the next.
Yeah, because it zips off in the sky. Like, well, we scanned the area and this isn't going to make a good show for us. Because at the end of the day, and this is what I believe, that planet Earth is one planet of many planets that are part of a large system of their. When you have the technology they have, you don't have to physically be at the planet to study and observe it, right? You could send down craft that have either an AI on board or a consciousness upload, and it's just a channel that they're watching. And we're a very interesting channel here on Earth. I mean, look at the behavior of humans. It is, it's crazy. Like, we're all over the wars and love, and then our reality shows and protests and just all this stuff that they could watch. We're probably a really interesting channel to observe. And I said this on the podcast before. If any kind of intelligence, any kind of high intelligence that are watching us have any motivation to stop us from destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons or otherwise, it's because we're an interesting channel they don't want to lose, or a study that they don't want to give up. That would be their only motivation. It's not about care or love. They don't want to lose a study. Does it make sense?
This will be season 1000 or something like that, and they won't lose this show because it's very entertaining.
Yeah, it's got high ratings.
Yeah, probably.
Because if humans are like, if we came across another planet in our exploration and we saw, I don't know, let's say we go back to another planet and they're in their Stone Age or their Bronze Age, they're having war and they're just figuring out how to get there to build their civilization to be, a little more civilized. That's going to be very interesting for us to watch. We would observe. I would hope that we don't get involved and go, push our religion or whatever on them, that we would just study them from afar, as I think what's going on with us. And It's the best explanation I have because UFOs have been observed on this planet for decades that we know with technology. And as far as the historical record goes, thousands of years, these have been spotted in the sky, right? And we're explaining them by what we know at that time to be our best explanation. So that's what makes me come to the conclusion that we're a channel, we're a study, we're on a National Geographic channel of some other civilization. That's all I can come with, you know?
Yeah, it's as good as anything, I should say. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So moving forward, Clas, before we close out, what else do you have on the horizon that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on trying to find a new locality for the Archives for the Unexplained. We are now situated in 15 different locals on the same street. But we are discussing with the community in the city where we are situated right now, trying to find just one big, large locality. I went to a meeting just 2 days ago with the community, and hopefully in a couple of years we will be able to move there. And if the economy is serving us well, we can do that. That's one thing I'm working hard on. I'm also expecting more than 5,000 kilos, 5 tons of material coming from the UK and from the US right now on both of them, coming to the archives. Most of them books and files about UFOs and the paranormal. So that will be quite a treat when it arrives to AFU within the next 2 weeks, I think.
You're familiar with David Marler, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Have you had contact with him?
Yeah, we have contact from time to time. It was a couple of months ago now, but we know each other, and of course we are in contact when we need, and I think he's doing a great work. And I wish him the best of luck with his project.
Yeah, because he's doing in America what you're doing in Europe right now. The same thing, like trying to have one large place with all the information in it. I did a recent podcast with him, and he was discussing that. I think there should be a network that's kind of like a Facebook, but for people of your profession, so they could kind of discuss their findings and what they plan on looking into to help bridge everyone together, right?
Yeah, we are in contact, and there are networks. I mean, I know most of the guys who are working around the world with archives. Most of them, or all of them, I should say, are national archives, except ours, that is international. So that's what's really are different. AFU tries to be a depository and a knowledge center for all of the world and different languages as well. It could be Russian, it could be French, it could be English or Swedish.
I agree. Yeah, because that would be a great archive. Because then when reports come in, it's tough, especially for you. You're an investigator in Europe. When you get reports in, it's got to be hard to comb through to figure out what's tangible and what's not. Like, what do I put my time and energy into versus this is just a random report. That's got to be. I mean, I can imagine it's a lot of work.
I mean, all of us do this with our own money, and we don't get paid for anything. We are working very hard on our free time doing this. And people don't really realize that. They think everything should be free, freely accessible. And of course, it sounds very good, but if we are paying loads of money to do this, we must, in the end, try to find some income so we can do this for many, many years more to come, of course. But today, everything on the internet should be free. That's what people think. It isn't really that easy.
No, God, no. It can't be, because then, so if you have, let's say you have a website, and I think you should have a website where people pay to be on it, because if it's free, you're going to have a lot of these people that, one, pranksters, two, nonsensical people. Everyone's going to get on there, and the data is going to get corrupted. When you have a paying group of people, it means they have a real interest in the subject, and they really want to make a real contribution, right?
Absolutely.
It's filtering out the nonsense.
We do have this afu.se downloads, where you can download a couple of hundred of thousands pages of magazines and clippings and other type of files for free. But behind that, we have millions of scans that we cannot share with everyone because of people's names and everything else. We cannot just put them on the internet. But we are trying to be as free as we can. But in the end, we must try to create an AFU.se with a paywall. Behind that, we will give you access to many, many things that you cannot access anywhere in the world.
Yeah. There's a magazine in France. It's called OVNIS, OVNIS. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of my podcasts got transcribed for that. I'll probably send them this one as well. Them as well. They search for stories that have more concrete evidence in it. Right. And so for the project you're working on, the website you're working on, I could see that so let me ask you this. For cases that you come across, what's it like for you to take the information and find out if it's worth the time of looking into? What are the steps you take?
The first step is that most of the cases are coming in through our website. And if it looks interesting, we are making a telephone call to the guy who put the report on our file, in our files. And if it's interesting enough, we are sending a researcher, field investigator, to him or her and start an investigation on site. And after that, when it's concluded, we are giving this report to a group of experts within UFO-Sweden that really looks into the case and tells if it's properly done or if something else must be done. And if it's good enough and stands that scrutiny, we have another peer review with some scientists as well that are experts in different areas. That's the steps we are taking. And after that, it is filed at AFU.
Yeah, because for me, it'd be tough. I'm in my mind right now thinking, like, how would I, because I get phone calls and emails regarding the paranormal, UFOs, et cetera, et cetera. And some of them I read, and they're so fantastic that it's like, how do I know? Like, I don't want to call people liars. I don't want to do that. But I could also sense when I'm reading, when I'm about halfway through a paragraph and I'm getting that feeling like this doesn't sound right, and I get a lot of that. So I can only imagine what you're coming across.
Yeah. I got a telephone call just a couple of weeks ago from a girl north of Stockholm, and she said that she was out walking with her cat in a leash, and suddenly there was this object coming over her and abducted the cat. Okay. I mean, I don't really believe that happened, but I would never laugh at her. I discussed it with her for a couple of minutes, and after a couple of minutes, she said she must go because her mother wanted to know what happened to the cat. And okay, we said goodbye and everything was fine. But I don't really think that the cat was abducted. No.
Yeah, so I recently did a podcast with Dan Spell and Mike Penicello from MUFON. Dan Spell's a former Department of Defense agent. And in the episode I did, the more recent one I did with them, they were asking me questions about, from all I've learned and what do I think they are. So I sat on that episode forming opinions and theories about what I think is going on. And probably about 2 weeks later, I get an email from someone and they're accusing me of being in the CIA. Because the information my theory sounds so spot on, and they're accusing me of being in the CIA, and then I'm just using this program to probe people. And when you get that email, as you're laughing, part of you's a little frightened. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because if they really think that, what kind of actions would people take on someone if they're thinking he's some sort of double agent? Like, that's a scary thought. That there's people.
I mean, I have been accused of that as well, and I mean, I think you're getting there if you're a little too investigative and you're not believing in everything that maybe you are getting.
Right. Yeah. You're crossing the threshold.
Yeah.
So one last thing, what case have you worked on that you found to be the most bizarre case in history that you've worked on?
For me, the ghost rockets are the most interesting cases, and they are bizarre. I mean, they happened in 1946, but they still happens in Sweden. Those cigar-shaped objects crashing into waters and just vanishing. and we are looking down into the lakes, and you can only see an indentation or something at the bottom of the lake, but you never find anything, any debris, anything at all. And we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of witnesses in broad daylight. You hear the sound, you see the splash, you see the water column. The military comes there trying to locate it. They don't find it. Oh. And this has been going on for quite a few years. Not often, but from time to time they do that. And it's so very strange to me. I cannot really pinpoint what is behind this. What do they want? What is it? What happens?
Yeah, it's funny because, so consider what the Tic Tac is, the thing David Fravor saw. That is a cigar-shaped vehicle, right? The only difference is he was in the air, was close enough to make an evaluation on it versus what people see in the distance. And it always seems to be that these objects are in and around water, bodies of water.
And there are some very strange observations around water. I mean, the one I told you from 1988, it's connected to water. And of course, if you're standing near a lake or water, you have quite a good horizon. You can see a lot.
Right.
If you're standing in the middle of the woods, you don't see that much. And if you're in the city, you don't see that much. So it could be like you're just more able to see what's around you. I don't know. I don't think they are here to get our water.
No.
I saw that Avi Loeb and some other wrote about that they may be here for the water. I don't think so.
No, because there's plenty of water on, with that technology, there's a lot of water on comets. A lot of comets are ice-based.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a running theory or thought that Earth's water came from a comet. We had a collision, and that's where our water came from. But what does have my curiosity is what's the interest of the bodies of water? If you think about it, like what we were discussing earlier, it could very well be that they utilize water. Maybe they do have a station here on Earth that's below the surface, and water's the gateway. Right?
But why don't they keep themselves out in the Pacific Ocean somewhere? Why do they come crashing into small Swedish lakes? Or why do they show themselves around the Nimitz when it's near the coast of California? They don't need to do that.
Right.
Water is everywhere, as you say. And they don't need to show us that they are looking for water.
That's a great question. Why are they doing that? It's almost blatant. I mean, maybe, again, on their channel, wherever they're watching the Earth show, maybe they have a military channel. Like, all right, we're gonna keep current with the American military, because China, they probably have the same thing happening. They just don't discuss it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with Russia, because it's a really weird thing with our governments. Like we're not willing to accept the fact that we're not the alphas in the air. Because when you have something like a UFO performing the way it's performing, that's a hard pill to swallow for a powerful government, right? We're not willing to say, well, they're outperforming. There's nothing we could do about them. Because the truth is, there's nothing we could do about them. That's the fact. Which is why I hate when they say the word threat. Because if these objects wanted to be a threat to us, what can we do about it?
I mean, the only way they are a threat is that you may collide with them. Right. I cannot see any other kind of threat.
And in history, I don't think we've had an air-to-air collision with one, right?
No.
Yeah,
no.
So it's bizarre. It's a great subject, Clas. I mean, and I commend you for the amount of work you do in it. It's a lot. Eventually, I'm going to get out in the field. I'm going to do a documentary. I've been saying it for a while. I was supposed to do it already, but I don't feel I'm educated enough to go out into the field and know the places to look. So I've been creating a network. Where do I go? How do I look? What instruments do I bring? Clearly, after speaking to Doug Wilson, I'm going to bring both a digital camera and a film camera because, I want to be able to find the quality between the two. But it's going to be, for me, that's going to be a long time. I imagine I'll be podcasting on the road because I plan to go, and that's just the U.S. I depicted going from east to west and the north, from west to east and the south. That would take me a year or more to cover that ground. Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking.
So, but I'm going to do it. I got to do it because I'm one of these people. I've never witnessed anything and I want to. And the best way to do that is responsibly is to go out there and look. because, it's one thing to sit on the chair and form opinions and read studies. And then there's another thing where I have to get out there and look. I got to know.
Do that. I'm out all the time. It's very rewarding. Do that.
I'm gonna. And it's worrying because my friends know me. Like if I'm out in the field and there's a Bigfoot, like I'm not good enough to film it from a distance. I have to run to that thing and see it. It might be my demise, but I have to see it if it's there. So
good luck.
Indeed. So anyway, Clas, before we close out, is there anything you want to add?
No, please visit afu.se and take a look at what we have to offer.
Excellent.
Do that, and I think you will find it interesting.
And I'll put that in description too, so people could find it. So for people listening, we're going to say good day, good evening, or good night, or whatever it is for you. And I'm going to talk to Clas in post.
Great.